I remember the day I walked into my mother's room just to find a movie for me and my siblings to watch. As I went through her pile of movies, I came across a blank VHS tape. I put the VHS tape inside of my mother's VCR just to see what was on it. The images that came up on the screen were images that my 11-year-old eyes should not have seen. I would later learn that those images were pornography, and from that day forward, I would battle with an addiction to pornography. 93% of boys and 52% of girls are exposed to pornography before the age of 18. 79% of accidental exposures happen in the home. 56% of divorce cases are due to one party having an obsessive interest in online pornography. I bring this issue to your attention because, as you can see, exposure to pornography affects men, women, and children alike. I was exposed to pornography as a child, which became an addiction for over 16 years. I am also the mother of 8-year-old twin daughters that were recently exposed to an inappropriate image online. Due to this recent incident, I have become knowledgeable by speaking to a family therapist, also by doing my own research on strategies of preventing my children from being exposed to pornography. I also have open discussions with them in a language that they can understand, because if I don't speak to them, society will. I've done much research, and on today, I'm hoping that the strategies that I have come up with will help you to prevent the children in your lives from being exposed to pornography. Imagine your child playing on their tablet, listening to music, or watching a movie online, and they come across an inappropriate image, and out of a child's curiosity, they press on that image. They have been exposed to online pornography. That is something that happened to my children. First, I will discuss with you how a child exposure to pornography can cause it to become an addiction, how an exposure to pornography can affect a child's life, and the different strategies that you can take to prevent your child from being exposed to pornography. According to the YouthPornographyAddictionCenter.com, addiction occurs when a neurochemical called dopamine is released in the brain. This is the same chemical that is released in the brain when someone is on drug use, is having drug use. So just like heroin or cocaine is released in the brain during drug use, it is the same chemical that is released in the brain during watching pornography. Once the brain is flooded with dopamine, it rewires itself to crave that same effect. Just like a drug user, when they want that same fix, their brain is flooded with dopamine. That's the same thing with watching pornography. It floods your brain with dopamine, which causes you to want to have that again and again and again, that same effect. Because pornography can be addictive, it is challenging to protect the lives of our children in this society where pornography is protected. Pornography is protected by the First Amendment. It is protected under the United States Constitution. According to hg.org, under the law articles, in the United States Constitution, pornography is listed as performances actually constitute acting of subjects as an artistic expression, and that is what protects it under the First Amendment. But pornography is also affecting our children. It's putting their lives at risk. According to YourBrainOnPorn.com, children are reportedly having difficulty with achieving intimacy and in relationships and are struggling well into their adulthood. Young viewers suffer long-term psychological and physiological damage lasting into their adulthood as well. Exposing their brain to pornography at a young age, it affects them because their brain is not fully developed yet. So during those stages, it's giving them the wrong impression of sex at an early age. AddictionHope.com states, The messages commonly conveyed through the media about sexual activity has given the youth the wrong idea about sex, creating fantasies such as pornography that does not highlight the risk involved, like unplanned pregnancies, like transmitted diseases, and rape. Child exposure also increases the likelihood of a child becoming a victim of sexual violence, instigating sexual violence against another child, and greater involvement of deviant sexual practices. From the resource book, Pornography Victims and Perpetrators, experts note pornography short circuits and or distorts the normal personality development and process that supplies misinformation of sexuality, sense of self, body, and leaves the child confused, changed, and damaged. We now know what the problem is. So what can we do to solve this problem? Being proactive is one of the best ways to prevent exposure to pornography. FocusOnTheFamily.com states, there is no guarantee that the best parent can prevent a child's exposure to pornography, but it is important to instill in your children our own spiritual and personal values about relationships, sex, intimacy, love, and marriage. We must also take practical steps in their daily lives to prevent our children from early exposure to pornography. Have open discussions in a language that they can understand, and that was suggested by our family therapist, Kelly, at Triangle Family Marriage Life Center in Cary, North Carolina. Not having pornography in a home is another strategy. Moving your computer into the family room where the monitor can be exposed is another strategy. Using filter softwares on all electronic devices so that prevention of those online exposures can be prevented through the filters. Monitor your child's internet and limit their time on the internet with their activities. According to AmericanPsychologicalAssociation.org, if you notice that a child is having a habit of watching pornography or inappropriate images, seek services of a specialist that is trained to facilitate recovery. You all should have a clear understanding as to why preventing child pornography, exposure to child pornography is an urgent need in today's society. I have explained a child's exposure to pornography causes it to become an addiction, how it affects the child's life, and strategies to prevent child exposure to pornography. Pornography is everywhere, which is what's causing our children to be exposed. It is time to have a discussion about this and no longer sweep it under the rug. When I was exposed at the age of 11, I didn't ask for that. It just happened. And it caused the door to open up of promiscuity and me devaluing myself for a very long time. And so I ask you to have these open discussions with your children, because I was able to hide it for 16 years and my mother not knowing. And so I ask you to have these conversations with them openly in a language that they can understand, because if you don't, society will. Thank you.